What's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense, and we got to talk about this Tamar, Braxton, JR, Carlos King interview. Like the video as intro plays, because we got a lot to get into.
Could somebody please make it make sense?
Make it make sense to me in election.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. Made sense.
Make it make sense. You knew what was up.
Big moves.
Surfer.
Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense.
The dogs call. For many days I didn't bring him here because I suffer when he bites me. Bite me in my vagina. When I'm walking and he sees other dog, he right away, he jump on my vagina because he gets so crazy. He doesn't know who I am. He forgets everything.
Look at me. What did I say? No. Come here. Look at me. Hey. Look at me. No.
Okay, let me start here. I don't typically review people's interviews. I was really interested because we've never actually heard him talk. What we have heard is Jeremy talk through people who he is using to embarrass Tamar. So I started watching the interview with an open mind. I want to say shout out to Carlos King because it actually was a good interview. But my favorite interview, because I do watch Carlos's interview, was this. I don't know what we need to do. I don't know who all in this chat today saw him talking with Takara. Takara needs to be on somebody's television screen. So if somebody knows Carlos King, Takara is your gold mine. Takara would set something, whatever set she's on fire. That was a really dope interview. You guys should check that one out. Takara has some stories to tell. But anyway, so I thought Jeremy's interview was interesting. There was a few things, though. Let's start at the beginning. Because I'm going into the interview, and I'm not going to lie, as I'm watching the interview, we're just going to put it out there. As I'm watching the interview, what I am hoping I'm going to hear first is him discussing this.
But I try to keep the moment personal. He never fucked me.
Okay, maybe not that word, but
that's why I had to go get my. But the sad situation is like where.
I wanted to hear about the Tommy situation, and I really, really, really wanted to hear. I wanted to hear something really, really heartfelt, and when I didn't get it, I kind of. His story is intriguing. His story is aspirational, but I needed more. I definitely needed more. He did talk about his childhood trauma, but let's get into it.
For a man who is a personal injury attorney who just so happened to appear on one season of a dating show, you are constantly
Shade Room Shorty.
Yeah.
Shade Room Shorty. I swear.
Not a Shade Room Shorty.
Listen,
Talk to me about your background. Like,
I was raised in New Orleans. My mother, much like people did back in the mid to late 70s, she started using heroin and then became a heroin addict. At age 16, 2 gold teeth, 2 felonies. I got my GD in juvenile jail.
wait, back up.
Yes, sir.
Wait a second. Okay.
I'll talk about it in my book.
A lot of people have a.
So bingo. There's a book to sell. I'm gonna keep an open mind, but there's a book to sell. Him being a successful attorney after going through a parent who suffered with substance abuse, again, aspirational. But what we know you for is Tamar.
Accuse you of being a womanizer, of being a player. JR's always outside. Go to the hottest party. JR gonna be there, honey, looking for his next black woman. These are things that people have said.
Let me brace myself for this one. Okay.
I want you to be able to clear the air. You have been accused, okay, of having several kids by several women. And I would like for you to be able to explain to us. I mean,
don't y'all like the fast-paced music in the background? It really gives you something. Carlos has a good editor.
kids you have with how many women so that misinformation isn't spread here.
Unfortunately, I was reckless to the point that I didn't protect myself. So I ended up getting 2 different women pregnant.
You've always dated black
My
women.
entire life. Go find one white woman I've ever been in a relationship with. You won't.
What is it about the black women?
Well, I think.
Did you know who Tamar B. Braxton was?
I didn't know. I'll be honest, Carlos.
Was it?
No, right there. You didn't know who Tamar Braxton was? You didn't know who Tamar Braxton was?
Love at first sight. Things took a turn after Queen's Court aired, and then we started to see more social media fodder between you and Tamar. Are they together? Are they broken up? You know, messages, Insta stories, and then
we get some water on that one.
you know, Tommy Lee from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta.
We know Tommy Lee from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, and that's what we want to see. What happened?
I should have recorded his head in my ass.
We need to know what happened.
We saw that you two were at a sporting event, a game. So I want you to have the floor to be able to address that situation.
I was well aware of what I was doing.
Where are things now with you and Tamar?
The truth is, Carlos, very clear on this.
This arrest that happened recently for allegedly a DUI. It was plastered all over social media.
Sure.
What would you like to say about it?
What happens to an attorney when you have a DUI? He says he's gonna beat it, but does that mess with anything? Like your license?
I think
Hey, Raindrop.
And unfortunately, it was at the expense of you.
having me.
You look fantastic.
Thank you. I do all right for a white man, right? A little bit.
Listen, you do not give me Colonel Sanders today, and I need you to understand
That's
that.
awesome.
But no, let's all jokes aside. Thank you so much for appearing on the podcast.
For sure.
You know, one thing about me, I am a man who always owns up to my own shit. And it's no secret that, you know, a little interview I did with Tamar Braxton at the City Winery in Atlanta went viral because I was just being cheeky and fun. And unfortunately, it was at the expense of you. And when I learned that you were offended by that, I immediately got your number through someone.
You did.
And I called you,
Tamar,
within minutes. And I apologized to you.
Sure did.
Because one thing about me, I'm not here to use my platform to offend anybody. You know, I could be funny and silly and all those things, but I never wanted to be at the expense of someone's character. So although
now, there are a lot of people who do not care for Carlos. There are a lot of people who do not care for his interview style, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this man was mean. I don't really mind his interview style because I guess he makes his guests feel really comfortable very, very quickly. But I don't think that Carlos said anything that warranted an apology.
Though I said this to you privately, I want to say it to you again publicly, I'm sorry, and it won't ever happen again. But when you learned about that, JR, why'd you go up on social media? And I'm like, it's Memorial Day weekend. I'm trying to, you know, be a little hot boy in Miami.
You know, Carlos, listen,
I'm not ready. My dress is up hot. It's
Let's
hot.
talk. Okay, let's talk about Colonel Sanders, honey.
Oh, no, don't call him that. Don't do that.
No, you know, but that's our joke. That's a joke. You know, sometimes first of all, I've spoken to him, okay? Because real life, this is my sister in real life.
In real life,
like we're close. I've spoken to him, and I want y'all to know this. Y'all know me. I don't lie, right? I've spoken to him.
They don't want to hear that, baby.
No, he's really nice. He's a nice guy. He's handsome. When I look at him, I sometimes crave for a 2-piece chicken, you know, thigh and leg with mashed potatoes, coleslaw, and a biscuit.
He do not look like that.
I'm teasing you, girl. I'm teasing.
He don't look
he's
like
very handsome. Talk to me about that relationship because, listen, one thing about she and I, we are honest to our fans and to the audience.
Okay, so again, I let you guys hear exactly what he said. I don't think that warranted a need for him to have to apologize. Like, you're on a reality show, you're making a fool out of your girlfriend. What are we doing here? I don't think that was it wasn't that big of a deal to apologize. So I don't know if that was just a segue into why he got the interview, but I don't think Carlos was wrong. It was slight shade. Like, people try to destroy you. I've never seen Carlos do that to anybody. So, okay.
The joke is funny. I give it to you. Listen, I don't have thin skin, but it triggered some things, right? And that I think you learned in getting to meet me in person and talk to me, that I'm a genuine person, and I don't, I'm not. No matter where my relationship stands with somebody, I always expect them to defend me and not sit and laugh at me with somebody else. And so it was less about the joke and more about just the context of it, right? Because, man, I can laugh at anything. If I've been there and you said, JR, you do kind of look like Colonel Sanders, I'd be like, that's funny. But now that you know me personally, I think you understand the genuine person that I am. It really just kind of triggered me. There were some other things that really had nothing to do with you. And I really just wanted...
IB Dashid said, if he was offended, that's valid. Look, we're dealing with the person who ate Tommy's manufactured cakes to get back at Tamar. If you being called Colonel Sanders or Colonel Sanders got to you that bad, then maybe you shouldn't be doing things in the media. Just saying. We're not talking about a regular situation. We're talking about somebody who technically has a really large fan base, and you did something very publicly to humiliate her. So yeah, you're going to get a little bit of ire, especially if Carlos is really her friend. Your skin has to be tougher than that. Like, it has to be.
To feel protected and not laughed at in front of people, because there are a lot of things that I do to keep protecting that circle. And so I was grateful when you called me. I said, listen, it's bigger than you. I'd like to think that kind of fostered a new relationship, wouldn't you say?
No, it definitely did. And listen, it's no secret that I'm very close to Tamar. And when all that happened, I felt bad because I never want to put Tamar in a position to where she feels unprotected, right?
Sure.
But Jeremy did. This is why I feel like it's manipulation. We're talking about protecting Tamar, but the only person on the couch who didn't technically protect Tamar is her actual man. So you've now turned something as small as being called Colonel Sanders into a thing. Okay.
I wanted to take full responsibility for what I said out of my mouth. And what was so interesting about it, she and I talked about this before, the podcast we did together, how, listen, I work in media. I am media. And I know that we take things and we make it a story. And I just felt...
Absolutely. We can't want more for Tamar than she wants for herself. But I think I'm a little bit protective of Tamar just because we do remember there was an alleged... I'll just show you. Tamar Braxton boyfriend reportedly accused each other of abuse after her potentially taking her own life. So I guess I'm a little protective of Tamar. I give it to her because Tamar is over the top. A lot of people find her annoying, but I dig a little bit deeper. And when we take into account the stuff that she's been through, the men that we've known her to be with, we got Vince, who was abusing her. She never spoke on it. We only knew that her husband had bit her finger, which became a joke because he's plus size. So then he's biting her. That became like a joke. But in all honesty, we have to go back to her mom. And her mom gave us the reality of what Tamar was going through. And all the Birkins in the world, her son, none of it changed the fact that she was abused by Vince and hid it for years.
A long time. A long time.
To your knowledge.
It's been going on a long time. A long time.
So
the girls alluded to it. It was ignored, and was always said, that's not true. No, he's not. That's not true. But yet your eyes are black. Yet you have bruises on your shoulders. Yet you're always ending up in the hospital with blood clots. Come on.
Ooh. So, Ms. Braxton, tell me, how is Tamar feeling about?
So Tamar was abused by him. And then, we know David who accused her of abusing him, and then it came out that they were both in an abusive relationship, allegedly. And then we know K. Michelle had let the world know that Tamar was messing with Jermaine Dupri's daddy, and his mom, Jermaine Dupri's daddy's wife beat her up, and then DeBrat confirmed that was a real story. So we know Jermaine Dupri's daddy, Vince, David, and now Colonel Sanders. So maybe I am just a little bit protective of Tamar. I like Tamar. I think, I've always said I wanted Tamar on like Real Housewives of Atlanta. But in terms of her dating history, I just don't technically feel like she's been protected. And then when I saw this man clown her in the way that he did, I guess I just haven't forgiven him. So like I said, I tried to listen to this interview with an open mind, but by the time we got to him eating Tommy's cakes, I didn't get what I needed to get to feel like, okay, he's not just a smooth talker.
Bad because I, at the time, had no idea where you two were just going through just being in a relationship.
Sure.
And it's not my business or my place. And when I said to you, when I said to her, I said, I had no idea things were going on that you two were working on. And I never, ever want her to get in the blogs for something I said. And just like you're protective of her, sure. I am as well as a friend. Yeah. And when we saw each other at the gym, first of all, JR knows everybody.
Tell us about it.
He knows everybody. And I confront things head on. Yeah. I'm not going to shy away from my stuff. And I walked up to you again and said, what up?
What'd I say to you?
I don't like kind of sound today, do I? I don't look too good at me. And I'm like, JR, you're a good looking guy.
But like you, yeah, I'm man to man. I can look you in the eye and say, I didn't appreciate it.
He was really in his feelings about the but Carlos didn't even make that up. I was saying that since the reality show. People have been saying that. It's been all over the media and YouTube. A lot of people do find him attractive. Tamar finds him attractive. And, and at the end of the day, if they're happy, but we're here to talk about this interview.
But jokingly, I accept your apology, and I'm glad we have an opportunity to talk because I was raised that way. I was always raised to go to the source. Don't be indirect. Don't do any of that. And so I definitely appreciate it when you came up to me and we had a conversation. It went from awkward to more like connecting and then establishing a relationship. And I thought it was a pretty dope moment. But you're right. Who's it told me? Rich was like, you guys in here. I was like, oh, I'm sure I'll end up talking to him.
Rich dollars. Yes, no, it's like at the gym, it is this great community of just Atlanta people where we all just like say hi to each other and connect when we can. And after meeting you, I said to you, I would like to invite you on my podcast because I want to use.
Y'all are eating him up in the comments. I think people are protective of Tamar. Even she said, y'all really don't like him when she was when Carlos interviewed her. What's up, my sister? Rated Lane says, no, I didn't know all that about Tamar. Yeah, she's been through a lot. But because she's so animated and extra, oftentimes people, think, she invited on herself. But nobody deserves to get bit. Nobody deserves to be hiding black eyes and bruises and stuff like that. Tamar is extra. That is Tamar. She's extra. But nobody deserves that.
Use my platform to be able to let the world in on just you because you are in the blogs a lot lately for a man who is a personal injury attorney who just so happened to appear on one season of a dating show, met this woman you fell in love with, and then all of a sudden your life changed forever. So we'll get into that later. But first, you're from New Orleans. So talk to me about your background. Like, you're from New Orleans, right?
I'm from New Orleans.
Okay.
So I was raised in New Orleans. My mother was kind of a Rolling Stone. She went to New Orleans for Mardi Gras in the mid 70s. She became a burlesque dancer. And then she got pregnant with me. And then much like people did back in the mid to late 70s, she started using heroin and then became a heroin addict. And so my life kind of became this, grab a garbage bag, grab your stuff. You're staying here, you're staying there. And so father was never around. I didn't have any siblings, but I learned a lot in New Orleans. There are a lot of things I'm sure culturally that you'll see about New Orleans where people just love people. You never meet a stranger in New Orleans. And I think
I just don't hear any accent. You know, I love my people. I don't hear any accent in him.
My upbringing in New Orleans is more of who I am, and that's probably the biggest misunderstanding of JR, right? Why does JR sound the way he sounds?
Somebody said, who styles him? I will say I really like the suit. Now, what would we call this? Like a Trump swoop? What would we call a bouffant? It's a lot of super stiff spritz holding this. It's kind of like maybe a Leah bang. It just doesn't cover the eye. What are we calling this swoop? Or we'll just call it the swoop, the KFC swoop. I don't know, but I do like his suit. It's a really nice suit.
Why is JR dating all these black women? Well, number one, because I was raised by black women. When my mother disappeared for months at times, they stood in the gap and took care of me.
Were they friends of your mom?
They were friends of my mother, or she befriended them, and she would leave me there and they would take care of me. And there would be moments where I would be left. In fact, I'll talk about it in my book. The first time I was ever prayed for and covered was by a black man. I was roughly 6 years old. My mother disappeared again. And, I'm going through that moment crying. And I remember very distinctly this man saying, Jeremy, I don't know where your mother is, but what I want to do is teach you to pray, because I know that prayer will bring her back and she's going to be back soon. And so where I'm going with why I am the way I am, it's just the way I was raised. I don't know any other difference, Now,
I want to point out, because like I said, I did think this was a good interview, even though I don't particularly like him. It was a good interview. What I want to point out is a black man, where they say that black men are not fathers or not in the home. This kid was raised, his mom was a burlesque dancer, stripper, whatever you want to call her, or whatever, in the adult industry. And I think she was it meth? She was on drugs. So in his community, a low-income neighborhood, they accepted him, embraced him, and black families brought him up. So I think he was trying to say that he has a certain amount of comfort around people of color. So I thought it was really dope of him to say that. They brought him in, they prayed with him. I like certain things about the interview.
Oh, and so do I have an affinity for black? Absolutely. It's what I looked up to. It's what I was raised around. And so I think that's probably the biggest misunderstanding of me is, am I out here, stealing culture? I was raised on powdered milk, powdered eggs, and canned peanut butter. By age 16, 2 gold teeth and 2 felonies. I got my GD in juvenile jail.
Wait, back up.
Yes, sir.
Wait a second. Okay.
It's a lot. I know you can unpack
because you obviously you wouldn't be able to tell just by looking at you today. So your mama burlesque there.
So I for that prayer part, I didn't want to be shady, but Goddess Noel says, so did we get confirmation JR ate Tommy's groceries? He doesn't strike me as the type. He seems like the place and order with Instacart type. Now, this was the story Tommy told. Now, Tommy curses a lot, so I don't want to play her video. But she says that JR picked her up in his Rolls Royce. It's older than hers. I think she said they went to the St. Regis, and he used Marriott points to pay for the room. And then he ate her manufactured cakes. Now, that's what she said. The fact that she said that, he talked so bad about Tamar and gave her, tea and information on Tamar is why I still haven't forgiven him, even if Tamar's already forgiven him. But that's the story we got. Cakes were gobbled. BBLs were moved around. Allegedly.
Burlesque dancer, turned heroin addict. Unfortunately, you're 6 years old. You have black women pretty much raising you. A black man prayed over you and taught you how to pray and cover you. Where was your father at this time?
I never met my father. I never knew him. He's never around. And that is something I think I never really unpacked because I just accepted that he wasn't there. I accepted that You know, there are very traumatic moments in my life that I talk about in this book that I just accepted for what it was, but I always saw the positivity of being able to know that I'm going to be okay. You know, once I learned to pray, as I went through those traumatic moments, I just said, you know what, God, I know you're going to help me through it. It's okay. And my mother would pop back up for those times for a week or two. But New Orleans culture, you know, I've talked about this before, where poverty in New Orleans in the mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s, it had no race. And if you happen to grow up together, you just, you know, you fought to live together. And that's what I went through. And, you know, I say I'm the anomaly, but the reality is I was, and people just accepted me for who I was. And now, because of, you know,
Louisiana people are very accepting.
I am now, polished, tailored. When they hear my voice, it's like, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
But
am I missing something? What in his voice is different? I might be missing it. What do people hear? I hear a Caucasian man when I hear him speak. I feel like he can kind of like, what did they say about Todd? He can kind of like maneuver. He can swerve. Phaedra is what I'm getting. You know, attorneys are very quick. I feel like he's too smooth of an operator, but I don't hear any other inflections in his voice. He just sounds like a Caucasian male to me.
I think I communicate very clearly. I'm very well spoken on what I went through. But yeah, so I think that's probably the most misunderstood. But growing up in New Orleans, during the murder capital of the world, not having a father figure and no real role models, you just do what everybody else does. You sell drugs, you buy outfits, you chase women, you do all this stuff at a very young age.
Okay, let me close my eyes.
And how did you get caught up in the lifestyle to have 2 felonies?
Well, you quote unquote make certain friends that you think have your best interest at heart. And then you find out very quickly that you're more of a fall guy as opposed to the person who's going to be a part of reaping in the rewards of committing.
He did College Hill.
So I'd like to think back then I was more of a follower instead of a leader.
He did College Hill. Oh no, Tamar was on College Hill. So maybe he just visited. Maybe did he visit College Hill? Not a black scent.
And, you know, as I got older, I became more of a leader and understood. I'm glad that I learned from those childhood lessons, those juvenile lessons, because now as a grown man, I look back at that and I'm like, wow, I would have never done that. Hindsight being 2020.
So what were you going through during your teenage years? Was it just, were you looking for acceptance? Because one thing that I learned just talking to various people is, for a lot of men who grow up without a father, you're looking for a father figure, and often.
Well, technically, he didn't have a father or a mother. So I do think, again, his story is extremely aspirational. To go from where he came from to where he is now with the gold Rolls Royce and all that, it's aspirational.
At times, that father figure is found in gangs. It's just in.
We're not going to watch the whole interview. I'll link Carlos's interview if you guys are interested in watching the whole thing. I will link that in the description of my video.
A week or two later, and I scored probably some of the highest scores than anybody. And next thing you know, at the Air Force and everybody else. But I went to the Marine Corps because my whole life has been based on what people tell me I can't do. So went to the Marine Corps, excelled, enlisted, became an officer, got my bachelor's degree at Auburn, and really just had a transformation. But the moment that turned my life around was when my mother died of cancer. And
how old were you?
19. Yeah, 19. So it was at that moment I said, all right, going to college is great and all, but now I need to, the next steps for me are establishing a legacy. I don't want my mother to have died in vain. My last name is Robinson. That was passed on from my mother by way of my grandfather. So the way I looked at it was like being at her funeral in that moment, just me and her casket, no other family members, nothing. It was something that deeply touched my heart, and it just motivated me. I think God spoke to me then and just put me on a path of just reaching for the stars. And so I did, GED, got a bachelor's degree at Auburn. From there, went and got my master's. And then, when I got back from Iraq, I landed in Atlanta and went part-time at night for law school. So it's been very interesting, but it's been a very unique road traveled, but I wouldn't change anything for the world because I say this all the time. I'm sorry, we're talking about God and all this stuff, but it's my faith is what has molded me. But I know that where God has made me different is so that I can be empathetic and make a difference. First things I did when I started practicing law was criminal defense and father's rights family law. Who better but me? Who better but me to understand what this criminal justice system is like, how unfair it is for Black people, how unfair it is for Black fathers, how unfair it is, and using my white privilege to make a difference. I did that for.
So there are no inadequacies that white fathers, Latin fathers have in. I'm trying. So is it only Black men where there's a disparity specifically as it applies to custody, child support? Yeah, Aston has to go. Sorry, somebody had to come get Aston. I don't think I didn't like that. You lost me there
for several years. So anyway,
you were raised by Black women who took the responsibility of you being the 6-year-old kid being left at home for days on end to sort of mold you. And then for you to obviously,
I can't say your name, and I'm not going to put your name on the thing, but we'll just say Sir says you're going out of your way not to like him. No, I went into the interview with an open mind. If you feel like I'm critical of him, I guess that's fair for your analysis, but I just don't necessarily like everything he had to say. Other stuff I've, applauded him on. That's what an interview is. It's subjective. You hear one thing that you like, I might hear something that I like, I might hear 10 things that I don't, or vice versa.
Like you said, use your white privilege to understand that, look, I know how this jacked up the system is for people in general, but predominantly for Black men. Yeah. So you being around the culture has afforded you the understanding of, I can be somebody who understands.
Mims don't have no kind of boo thing. It's my older sister's boyfriend who came to get her dog.
And by my very unique friends. Yes. Or I could be somebody who can step in and do something about it and defend these fathers and who are, going to jail for meaningless stuff. So no, listen, I applaud you for that. I applaud you for that. When you decided to enter into law, what was that surprised you when you learned how much Black men are unfortunately marginalized when it comes to the system?
That's a deep question, but boy, is it so true. What amazed me is that in some of these counties in Atlanta, surrounding Atlanta, much like probably every other state in the world, that these judges, without the right white face, wouldn't even consider some of the less harsher punishments or even no jail time. And it would astonish me that I would watch other attorneys try to make a difference who were either Black women or Black men. But as soon as I came up, I could immediately get whatever I needed for my client.
So Black attorneys in Atlanta are treated differently than he is. Now, that I could believe. I can believe that his skin color opens the door for him in places and situations where it may not be open for an attorney of color, not just Black, Latin, Asian.
So that was, I think, the realization of, okay, I'm making a difference. And I committed to that. And I think, my background, my character, I think there's a lot of people that would say I made a major difference during that time. And so I'm grateful for that.
So you're a father.
I am.
And one of the things I would like for you to clear up on your own.
Sure.
You have been accused.
Okay,
of having several kids by several women. And I would like for you to be able to explain to us how many kids you have with how many women, so that any of that misinformation isn't spread here.
He does have several kids by several women.
So I was married with my first 2 children. I got married while I was in the military. My 2 oldest children are 21 and 17. Son will be 18 in September. And expect to be married for life, you know, but sometimes things happen, and I don't have anything bad to say about the relationship, but the marriage ended. And then I've been in Atlanta since 2007 as a single man. I went through a failed relationship that created my middle daughter. And then very transparently, and I think I said this on Queen's Court when I met Tamars, 2019, I had a reckless year. You know, I was dating casually. I was honest with the people I was dating. And unfortunately, I was reckless to the point that I didn't protect myself. And so I ended up getting 2 different women pregnant, which created some beautiful children, but it definitely led me to a depressed place.
Was it 2 different women getting pregnant at the same time?
Well, there's one and then there's another one, but not at the same time, as in within weeks. We're talking 4 or 5 months.
Yes, 4 or 5 months is pregnant at the same time. Yes, that is pregnant at the same time. So now you're just about done taking care of your children. Well, you always take care of your children, but you're almost done with them being, you know, of age, 18 and on their own. And now you're in your 40s with 2 new babies.
Okay.
In the same year.
Very reckless in the sense that
not hood twins.
I am supposed to be protecting my foundation that I'm trying to build on behalf of my mother. But what hit me was that I'm now recreating a cycle of not being a father who's present every night for my children. And that hurt. And I don't know that I've really shared that with anybody but Tamar. And Tamar, to her credit, gave me a safe space to say, listen, you made a mistake, but you're an amazing father. And so while I don't take any pride in having a reckless year, you know I joke around and say I think she gave that to me, that term. I had a hot boy summer, but the reality is
he was outside.
I'm not purposely trying to create single family homes. There was a choice.
It's important to say, though, that he is heavily active in his children's lives. He says he has all of his children on the same weekend, so they're all with him. No nanny, no nothing.
Place there, and I had to support what that choice was. And so as a result of me creating 2 children and them wanting to have those children, the best thing I could do was be an amazing father, be supportive, be financially supportive, give my time and be present in their lives. And so of course there's all this, you know, what else can you say? You know, I got 5 kids and quote unquote 4 baby mamas, but I was married the first several years of my life with my first 2 children. And that's the way I've always wanted.
I thought it was 4 kids, 3 baby mamas. Where did the 5th one come from? Was the 5th one more recent? Because we got 2 older ones. Now we have 2 that were born in the same year. Where is the 4th baby mama coming from in the 5th kid?
Wanted it to be.
What did Phaedra say about Peter? No, I want my husband to be clean. He has 4, but we only saw one argue, you know, and kind of like fuss with Tamar.
But, you know, God doesn't make mistakes. And the way you look at it, you can judge me all you want, but am I present in my child's life? Am I financially responsible in my child's life?
Okay, thanks, Golden.
So I have to take that on the chest, and I accept that. But my children won't feel that way. They won't know any different.
Lots of people have multiple babies.
When it comes to the women, do all of the children's moms get along?
My position on that has always been to not create more discomfort. If they choose to have relationships, that's up to them. But my position has been to have my children together so that they can be siblings together. So to answer your question, I don't know that they don't get along. I think that they just choose not to have a relationship.
Good media trained answer. So the answer is no, they don't get along, and I have to just take all my children. This is what I mean. Not a direct answer. Do they get along? That would be yes. Do they get along? No. But we all have great co-parenting situations. He swerves questions.
Because my children at the core, they choose to have a relationship. And so that's what really matters to me.
Not because he's hunting.
That when I have them, I have them together.
No, he's not young Jock.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like on the weekends and stuff?
Yes, sir.
JR is not young Jock.
Okay.
Yeah, I had, fun fact, when they were both infants, I had them both at the same time. I didn't have a sitter. It was just me and my 2 infants. And at the time, I believe she might've been 17 and my son was 15 or 14. We were just one big family, but that's what I am in my core. I'm a father. I'm a family man. And I think if Tamar had an opportunity to like really express one of the best qualities about me. She said it to me that she enjoys seeing me be a father. So they may not have come into the world under the best conditions, but I'm not out here trying to create a bunch of, children that don't have a father present.
Do you feel like when it came to that, was that one of the things that was disheartening? Because here you are growing up, not knowing your dad and your mom being in and out the house. Was it disheartening that there was this perception that you just were out here?
And Will Packer comes walking by. I pull up, first show, do it because truthfully, I've been in Atlanta so long and I'm kind of to the height of my throwing up on powdered milk, powdered eggs. If I'm making I wanted to quit every time, ride people's coattails. I never have.
Okay, we're getting to the question.
But coming back to your question,
why he did
it was difficult. I think I'd been sought out by showrunners for Ready to Love initially, the first couple ones. And I got cold feet and backed out and didn't want to do it. And then when this came up, I wanted to quit every time. It was like, why do I want? I'm at the pinnacle of my career, right? I'll say this in the sense that a man coming out of New Orleans with 2 gold teeth, growing up on powdered milk, powdered eggs. If I'm making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year, what do I need this for? I'm already on billboards. I'm already doing things that are making me get to the height of my life. The way I looked at it, truthfully, in that moment was, well, I've been in Atlanta so long, and I'm kind of in the 3%ers. So let me potentially date a 3%er, if that makes sense, and see if we're aligned, because I understand what it's like to.
So again, this is where I don't believe it. You did a reality show, sir, because it allows you to be a more known public figure. You did a reality show, sir, because it could potentially boost your brand, because you knew that eventually you wanted to sell a book. You could have met anybody through all of these various celebrities that you know who was also in the 3%. You didn't have to go on a reality show to do that. That's my issue. I can't stress this enough. Very aspirational story. But when it comes to very direct questions about your own behavior or, your decision making, you don't give us 100%. My perspective. Maybe he's telling the absolute truth. But I don't know anybody who actually does a reality show purely for dating. No, you're doing a reality show because at some point you want clout. You want some notoriety. You want your name out there. Reality show is like instant fame. I think he's 47. So I just don't believe the stories he's selling us. Guys, we have 1,300 in the chat. Definitely hit that like button.
Only want to date a certain caliber person. So I don't know. I struggled with it, Carlos. I agreed to do it because truthfully, some of the executive producers reached out and said, look, JR, we think you're going to be amazing for the show. You are a very passionate, intelligent person. And no matter what, you'll add value. So that's just the way I looked at it. I said, all right, I'll do it. And I'll tell you a funny story.
Nothing about clout, nothing about celebrity, nothing about fame, just because they asked him to do it because he would add value. Okay. I told the dog he would add value if he didn't bark. And what does he do? He barks. Just because you say somebody will add value doesn't mean that that's going to work. Like that's going to be a thing. I don't believe it.
The first show, right? First episode that we're about to film. I pull up in this very gaudy car that I have. I have a gold Bentley, which whatever. That's what it is. So
you replaced 2 gold teeth
with a gold Bentley.
With your grown ass got a gold Bentley. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I pull up. I got my suit on, and I'm listening to music, trying to stay hype. I'm excited. I just want to come into it with like energy, kind of like I'm coming here today. I want to walk in with positive energy and make sure the people I touch or meet look at me and think, "Wow, that's a good dude." So I'm sitting in there and listening to music and vibing, and Will Packer comes walking by with another EP, and I'm like, I'm giving prayer hands, thank you, and they come up to the car, roll down the window.
Okay. You were there for filming. you arrive in a gold, what did he say? Bentley, Rolls Royce, some really expensive gold car. You're sitting in your car listening to music very loudly, and the EP just happens to pass by, and you happen to let them see that it's you and give them the prayer hands. Guys, we gotta call a thing a thing. That's attention. You wanted people to see your gold, expensive car, especially the producer, so they can continue to push you along. Not truth is, I'm tired.
I'm so tired, child. I'm so tired. I'm really tired.
Oh my gosh. What did Reddit say? I didn't see what Reddit said, and I can't find her comment. But it doesn't get it just, I was hoping for a little bit more just openness. Low key, that's what I wanted.
And I say, you know, Brother Packer, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for giving me an
Brother
opportunity.
Packer.
We'll see what happens, but I'm excited to be here. And he says, well, God bless you. And I said, well, he said, good luck. And I said, well, I don't need luck. God has paved the way. I just got to walk the steps. And he said, a star is born. And I just kind of laughed at the moment. I didn't know what it meant, but imagine that, me going through the entire show, falling in love with Tamar, proposing, and then looking back. I've never done an interview about Queen's Court, by the way.
No, this is an exclusive. No, that's why I appreciate you coming here.
Exclusive.
No, it really is. So
you mean
you walk in the house, beautiful women. Did you know who Tamar B. Braxton was?
Yeah.
Tamar, vocal goddess Braxton. Like, did you know who she was?
And she has got to be top of the top vocal goddess for sure. I didn't know. I'll be honest, Carlos. I knew because the first event we were wearing masks, so we came in and there were only 8 of us. They sat.
Somebody said, Mims, your question, everything I question. I went through these comments, and most people, I would say maybe 75% of the people said that this interview changed their mind about him. I did think there were parts. I just didn't necessarily feel I didn't feel like there was, I felt like authenticity was missing. Let's see. Somebody said, Mims, you're coming. Wait, where's the comment? I don't see the comment. Oh, no, where's the comment? There was a comment. I didn't see you. I don't see where it is anymore, but they said, Mims, you're coming off as a hater. You know, that's fair. You might have really enjoyed it and didn't see anything past what he spoke. I listened and I just heard a lot more than what he was just saying. And that's fair. Donna White, thank you so much for the super sticker. Smiley said, Mims, I think he's a fraud. I don't hear no Louisiana accent. I didn't hear it at all, but some people say they hear it. Negla says, giving me Nick Cannon vibes. Good interview, though. I thought it was a good interview, too. Just because I think something is a good interview doesn't mean that I don't question certain things.
Me in the center of the sofa. I'm the only white man. And I remember thinking, oh, it's a Braxton. I just don't know. I didn't watch the Braxtons. I wasn't in tune with all of that. And so once we took the masks off and they introduced themselves, I only had eyes for her at that moment. She smiled, I winked, and it was cheesy, but I never pursued anybody else but her.
Kelly says he was authentic with boundaries. Okay, that's fair. So you had no idea who Tamar Braxton was. Okay.
Was it love at first sight?
I would say that. I would say
it was not love at first sight. Oh no.
It definitely wasn't for her. She was super she wasn't checking for anybody. She definitely wasn't checking for me. You know, in that situation, it's very awkward because the ladies had to pick somebody to go out on a date with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's weird for a woman who's been courted her whole life, right? What? You got to pick a man? So I don't think it was love at first sight. I think it began.
It wasn't love at first sight. Tamar was the only one that he courted. Technically, Tamar, of the 3 ladies, is the only one who has a, We know Evelyn's on Basketball Wives, not necessarily a viable career. Although I love who's the other girl? She made Laundromat. Although I love her, if somebody was looking for an opportunity, that path would probably be better with Tamar. So it wasn't love at first sight. You were looking for somebody in the 3%. Nivea. Love Nivea, but I don't know. I just don't trust them.
And to be something, once we really let our guard down and start talking to each other, we started to dig into each other's soul and talk about our past and our vision for life and our promotion of positivity and the place that we were at this point in our life. Mind you, she had just lost her sister not too long, and I can only imagine at that moment what she'd been going through just emotionally and spiritually. And so for me, I wasn't there to just create good TV. I was there to court her like a true king. And I think if you saw me on the show, like I brought flowers every time. I brought gifts, because if there was one thing I was going to do, whether I made a connection or not, I was going to show how I was raised to protect Black women. I don't think people realize that. I get so much scrutiny about all the other things that,
because we don't know you. And what we've seen, you have not protected her. This was my frustration. This is when I really just started like rolling my eyes.
This reported. I should have recorded his head in my ass. I should have recorded that. But I try to keep the moment personal. He never fucked.
I don't see that you're saying the right things. I just have not necessarily seen those in action. And your entryway or entry point to celebrity is technically Tamar. So even if Tamar has forgiven him, I don't, the believability factor is not there.
Oh, listen, I've been single. I've dated people. I've gone out. But in that moment, the add value portion for me was, look, if I fall flat on my face, if she doesn't choose me, that's okay. At least I was a gentleman and she'll always respect me as that.
What was it about Tamar doing that process of Queen's Court that ultimately made you fall in love with her?
It was a conversation about having children, having the 2 children in 2019. She had a unique way of creating a safe space for me and sharing some difficult conversations with her. She empowered me in that moment. She helped me get past the embarrassment. And now it's like, I don't feel embarrassed by it. I feel like it was a part of my life. And now the greater part of my life is I have 2 beautiful children as a result of it. So I would think the falling in love part was more of that connection. People don't know, but we met outside of the show and we talked outside of the show and we spoke on the phone for hours.
So the divorce rate is pretty high. In a situation where you have somebody on a reality show who then proposes, it feels off. I'm not going to lie. So Evelyn's engagement ended. Tamar's engagement ended, and then they're back together. Nivea did not have one. All of those shows on the Learning Channel geared towards, you have 90 Day Fiance and all that. I just don't see it. It feels inauthentic to me. Do I think Tamar is in a better place? Yes. She looks better than ever. She had a #1 hit album, and she now has her own tour company because she sold out all of her tour stops. So Tamar's in a really good place. I just feel like her picker may be off. This one was no good. This one was no good. This one chose to publicly embarrass you. And we don't need to keep getting into Jermaine Dupri's daddy.
Sometimes 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. Yeah, that's when it was love at first sight. That's when it was, she's finally seeing me beyond my lack of pigmentation.
I don't know if I told you this story. I definitely never shared it publicly, but I'll say it to you if I haven't shared it. No one knows this, by the way.
Okay. All right. Exclusive. All right.
Exclusive. And Tamar, don't get mad. She won't get mad. It's all good.
Okay.
It's a funny story. So I'm friends with her, as you know.
For sure.
And I want to say around 2021.
Okay.
This is months before Queen's Court.
Sure.
And I have discernment. So when you talk about God, I'm with you. I'm extremely spiritual. And we were talking, she's single, she's figuring out stuff. And I said to her one day, I said, I don't know, but I see you with a white man.
Oh, wow.
I swear to you, right hand.
She blew you off, I'm sure.
She did. I said, I see you with a white man. What? You know, Tamar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I just see you with a white man. I said, have you ever been with one? She said, no. I said, I don't know. I see you with one. I said, I really do. I don't have any rhyme or reason for this, Tamar, but I see you with a white man. Wow. I think you should start giving white men a chance, right? We never talked about it after that because I was like, well, she ain't receiving it, so I'm not going to continue talking about it. So the show premieres or whatever, and she tells me, like, look at my new man. I said, I told you, shut up, leave me alone. So I say all that to say, I know for a fact that she fell in love with you because months prior, she wasn't checking for no white man. For sure. And it really had to do with your sincerity. And the beauty of y'all relationship, to me, is the fact that I know it was built on a real friendship. Yeah. And it really was something that I was so proud to see come into fruition because I know how much, and again, we didn't know each other at the time. Sure. So I know for her, it was something that she deserved. She deserved to be with somebody who really loved who she is. Because the one thing about Tamar that I always let the world know is y'all don't see the girl I see.
Sure.
I'm like, this woman to me, she's so sweet. She's so funny. She's so kind. Y'all take everything she says and y'all twist it. But there's a side to her that I wish everybody could see. Is that something that you were able to see outside the lights, camera, action? Because
I'll be honest with you. I do like Tamar now, but I will tell you that when I was watching Braxton Family Values, I really did not like any of them because I felt like it was really jacked up that in the opening credits, they had Tracy as the wannabe. I didn't like that. There was a comment where everybody was kind of like giving Toni Braxton her, like her flowers. And Tamar said that she didn't get her career from Toni. She got it from Jesus. That's when I kind of shifted away from Tamar. That's the reality of it. I didn't really like how Tracy was treated. A lot of those fights were with Tamar. And I really did not like that comment because even if you made your own way, even if Vince did make it possible for you all to have that reality show, Vince took out, I think, like $1 million out of his own pocket to make sure they could produce this reality show. I still feel like Toni will always need her flowers from everybody in that family because she went bankrupt making sure that they were all paid well. Now, granted, Toni didn't need the Gucci plates like Oprah said, but at the end of the day, she took care of her sisters and her family, almost at the expense of her own career and definitely at the expense of her own good credit. Tamar eventually grew on me. I eventually started liking Tamar maybe after she was done with Vince. Later on, sometimes on the real, I enjoyed Tamar. But during Braxton Family Values, especially the first few seasons, I was pissed at all of them because, Tracy was always one of my favorites. This is a little side note.
The fact that you two were able to talk on the phone, you ain't supposed to, but you did it because you wanted, you have this connection.
Let me tell you something. I not only agree with you, I applaud you for saying, and Tamar is the most caring person ever. She is willing to take her shoes off, her shirt off, and give it to the less fortunate. She would give any and everything to people, and that's the one thing that I think people don't realize about her.
We haven't watched the whole interview.
A loving mother to a point that, man, there is no greater. She was getting ready to say something about being a friend, and
show ended because you had to wait until it aired.
It was difficult anywhere, and that
said once the Shade Room saw this party, what you would be judged for dating. Is it hard because
being married to me or being engaged? Sorry, didn't work out. Accept it. Stop leaving comments on social media.
Is it hard because listen, you are an attractive guy, you're a successful man, you're in Atlanta, where the pool of women here outnumber the men, whether they're married, have threesomes, throuples,
right.
All those things. You are a single man Atlanta, which is like heaven for a lot of men. And I don't think you should be judged for dating as a single man. So prior to all of that, there were lots of women who.
Carlos, I know what this lead up is going to.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
That's too much of a lead up. We want to hear about Tommy's manufactured cakes.
Who started to come out of the woodwork.
It was crazy.
That just, no, I'm telling you, you seem to have been this target. A lot of people have accused you of being a womanizer, of being a player. JR is always outside. You know, you go to the hottest party, JR gonna be there, honey, looking for his next black woman. These are things that people have said.
Yeah.
Why do you think people have come out saying, well, he's a player, I dated him, this relationship ain't real, he was with me? Like, what is that all about?
Well, number one, I think, Carlos, I'm an easy target, right? I think from a racial standpoint, it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, I see that white man everywhere. Well, keep in mind, I'm also a walking billboard. My business thrives on being in social settings. At the time, I'm criminal defense. I'm transitioning into personal injury. I'm going to be at events. Why not?
Your business thrives on being in social settings. So can we finally admit that you did reality TV to extend your reach? If your business thrives on your face being out there and you're on billboards, what does that do for your brand when you're on television? Just admit that. That's it. I just wanted a little bit more because he's not interviewed, and we've covered him a lot because of the things he's done to Tamar. So I was really just hoping for something different. Fascinating Fee says he seems genuine to me. Okay. She says or I don't know if you're a she or he, but Fascinating Fee says they like them. And that's fair. I thought that there were, like I said, I thought there were parts of this interview where I found his story very aspirational.
That's where I get the most clients. It's where I get the most conversations. You know, people come up to me, they're drawn to my energy. Hey, JR, boy, you are sharp. What do you do? Boom. Another potential client. So, and as far as like women saying they dated me or whatever, I mean, I have never lied to a woman in my life. I am very transparent about everything. If I'm casually dating or I'm looking to date with a purpose, I would have said that. But it's easy to play somebody who's looking for clicks and likes to play that game. But I've been in Atlanta since 2005. From 2007 to when I met Tamar is a long freaking time. That's almost 15 years. How many people would you date in a year, Carlos?
I mean, let's not talk about me.
Okay, but I mean, well, let's be fair about it, right? Let's be fair about it. In a year, right? In a year, you don't meet somebody, respectfully, you move on. And within a year, how many people could you just maybe go out on one date with and realize, you know what, that's not for me?
No, the thing is this, to be a single man from 2007 until 2019, like that's wild in the sense of, listen, I know what it's like to be successful, look good, and want to have fun. Sure. And I appreciate your honesty in terms of, like you said, if men were like, look, I was single, I do the fuck I want to do.
That's right.
I'm taking care of my children. Sure. They're not affected by this. We all have a past. And listen, to answer your question, me being single within 1 year, I'm dating a lot of motherfuckers.
That's right. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. And so all of this judgment is easy because now it becomes a race bait situation where it's like, oh, this white man don't care about black women. And it's like, but then you don't know anything about me. If you understood, that's all I've ever dated my entire life. It's not as if I transitioned at some point. It's not as if I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Let me try that out.
I didn't hear a race baiting situation. Maybe I'm not privy to what he's talking about. I just really heard people feel like he didn't protect Tamar. I've not heard too many people saying it's wrong. I mean, people date outside their race all the time. I don't know that that is really the issue. I think he kind of made it the issue, but I don't think that that's the crux of the issue.
You've always dated black women.
My entire life. Go find one white woman I've ever been in.
In fact, now this is going to be a little controversial. Who was I talking to? I can't remember if I was talking to a YouTuber or my sister. But I said, it's interesting now the way the culture has shifted. Was it my sister? Lawrence from Insecure got posted on the Shade Room because his wife or girlfriend, whatever, is pregnant. And people were all in the comments saying, you know, really negative stuff about it. Conversely, Eve got posted because I think she has been with her husband for 10 years. And there was a level of praise that went with that. So it's weird. I think most people, of course, accept interracial dating. But for some reason, it's the black male celebrity who dates outside their race that there's a problem. But if it is the black female celebrity who dates outside their race, it's applauded. There's been like a cultural shift. I think that's super interesting. Think Eve, think Serena. But anyway, I wonder if that was my sister I was talking to. I was talking to somebody.
Relationship with, you won't.
You have never been in a relationship with a white woman.
Ever. Yeah.
What is it about the black women?
Well, I think, and I may be wrong for saying this, but I think you date who you're familiar with. And me growing up in New Orleans, that was who I was familiar with. Me growing up as the only white kid in school, the only white kid in the neighborhood, that's what I was attracted to.
Now I did hear,
and I mean, to be completely honest, those
that.
mother figures for me were women I respected. And that's who, I'd like to think when you grow up, girls want to date people that are like their father. And sometimes men want to date people that are like their mother. Is that fair?
No,
it's true. But because race is involved, now it becomes different. But I get it. It's an easy coal to throw in the fire. But if you know anything about me, my closest people would tell you that I'm just me, and I've never dated anybody differently. And all of those so-called people saying that the relationship was fake, what? Tamar knew everything about my dating history and where I'd been. I cut everybody off prior. I didn't have any texting buddies. I wasn't seeing anybody. When I was madly in love with Tamar, listen, tunnel vision. I'm a leader.
Now, Tamar has said she will not discuss her relationship status with him anymore. They were seen together in New Orleans recently, but he continued to say was in love. So people feel like maybe they are not together. But if you watch Tamar's interview just a month ago, it sounds like they are together. They're just not going to talk about it. So I don't know. Y'all do with that as you may.
Yo, we are super freaking loyal. I don't play.
So what happened when things took a turn after Queen's Court aired?
Here we go.
And then we started to see more social media fodder between you and Tamar, in the sense of, are they together? Are they broken up? Messages, Insta stories.
Here
and
we
then
go.
At some point, we saw this huge story.
Let me get some water on that one. Let me brace myself for this one. Okay.
I want you to be able to clear the air.
Sure.
And it broke the internet that day. And that's broken up, messages, Insta story, saw this huge story.
Let me get some water on that one. Let me brace myself for this one. Okay.
I want you to be able to clear the air.
Sure.
Tommy Lee from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, we saw that you two were at a sporting event, a game. And it broke the internet that day. And that's when a lot of the people who may have been on the fence about you received, and there's lots of venom about this, because they're like, he's with Tamar. Why is he embarrassing her with Tommy Lee? What's going on here? So I want you to have the floor to be able to address that situation.
So for those of you guys who don't know, we've been talking about it a lot. He gobbled up her manufactured cakes, and Tommy told the world. And not only did he know that Tamar was mortal enemies with Tommy, Tommy's not the one that you really want to fight with. Tommy, and I say this all the time, y'all can take this and coin this phrase. The worst person to fight with is a person who has nothing to lose. Tommy has absolutely nothing to lose. She has done it all. She has done them all. She has every mug shot. Everybody talks about how beautiful Tommy is. Oh, she's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. When I say she has nothing to lose, Tommy risked it all for those looks. Allegedly, Tommy went to the plastic surgeon, got all of this work done, face, body, everything, and didn't have the money for it. She knew she didn't have the money for it. She was willing to go to jail to look a certain way. This is not the person that you really want to, you really don't want to tussle with Tommy. Now, Natalie Nunn did pop her. Natalie Nunn got her, but I think Tommy was drunk that day. I think, allegedly. Either way it goes, this is not what you want to do. Moreover, this is right on the heels of all of the bad publicity that Tamar was getting from Krishan Rock. So you really chose to hit this. You gut punched Tamar at her lowest point. With this lady. So this is what I was listening for in the interview. This could have turned it all around for me. Just a reminder.
This is reported. I should have recorded his head in my ass.
I don't know why that's so funny to me. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Okay, sorry. When something's funny, I laugh. My bad. Let me be serious. Put the reporter on. Hold on. Sorry, hold on. The sound went out. Let's do this again. Here we go. And again, I'll link Carlos's interview so that anybody who wants to watch the entire interview should check it out. He definitely has a story to tell. I don't know that I'll be buying his book, but he has a story to tell.
To address that situation.
So I'll say this. First thing is Tamar and I, our relationship ended, and I was single. We made that very public. In fact, I made it public because there were a lot of, to your point, there were a lot of questions about whether we're still together. And so I needed to heal from some things that happened in the relationship. I'm always transparent about that. Had my heart broken. I was going through some hurt and trauma that I needed to process that I couldn't get past in the relationship. And the truth is, Carlos, very clear on this. When you're hurt, you don't make the best decisions. And I own that wholeheartedly. I think I wanted her to hurt, and it was truthfully a mistake, and it only ended up causing me more hurt. And so to be in that situation, it just backfired. And I knew exactly what I was doing. I was very aware. It was on purpose, and it was because I was hurt. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just providing context. And of course, I apologize to her. But to her credit, in that moment, she finally realized some of the hurt that I was going through. And
sir, you are closer to 50 than you are to 30, 25. This was just saying I knew what I was doing. I thought about this, and I asked a couple of people. I said, well, what would it take for you to feel like what he did to Tamar was equal to what Tamar did to him? And Tamar both said Tamar would have had to have cheated on him for him to have gone out and embarrassed her like he did with her enemy. So I went back and I was like, okay, this is the Tamar's Instagram post where she apologized to him. And I did not hear, and you guys can tell me what you hear from this apology, I didn't feel like she cheated. It says, hurting the person that you love is far worse than being hurt by the one you love. I'm new to true love and loving myself. I'm sorry that it's you that has to feel the trial and error. I wish for the opportunity to give an apology and be forgiven for it all. She capitalized all. In relationships, we take being forgiven for granted. It's a blessing to be able to say I'm sorry and see another day in the war of love in this together. No matter how much I feel like I was right, you felt wronged. And I got to respect that. I'm not embarrassed for being open. I'm not embarrassed for being open about how I feel. I'm embarrassed of how I made you feel. I'm sorry. So this part of no matter how much I feel like I was right, you felt wrong. I don't feel like it was cheating with her saying that. Now, y'all could have heard something different. This was her public apology to him. Some people feel like she might have cheated. Nobody ever has technically really spoken about it in public. You know, you hear things in the streets. But yeah, I don't know. Welcome. We're a big old dysfunctional family. Gigi said, She says, I just found your channel. Yeah, the straight shooters, we can be a mess, but we welcome people. So welcome to the family. I lost your comment. It moved too fast. I didn't get enough out of this. Just to say you did it. You did it. Why? I did it in strict retaliation for her cheating on me. I did it out of spite without actually thinking. But he said, I take full responsibility. I knew what I was doing. I meant to hurt her. I don't like that. I don't like that.
And that's when we were able to talk and really, I think in that moment, it allowed me to fully heal because she understood. And so,
right.
You know, look, I don't hide from it. I was transparent. I posted something on my story saying I should have never been involved. And it just created a cycle of negative energy that you just never stops. And so, of course, I apologize to her.
Nope,
but you know, hurt people. And I think I saw something that says you have to go through this evolution of being hurt, then hurting in order to find peace again. And it's real. And it's not an excuse because I stand 10 toes down in anything that I am accountable for. But I think it was a time in our relationship that allowed her to see me for where I was. And I'm grateful for her because I learned.
So she stayed to fix you?
I learned, Carlos, I was going through so much therapy at that time. Like I was seeing 2 therapists. I was in it.
Which one told you to gobble Tommy's cakes?
Depression. I was in a very dark place. I'm not afraid to say this. I wanted to be unalive at one point. And it was very important for me.
Now, suicidal ideations is some place where we just have to stop. For Tamar to have allegedly gone through that, and now he's acknowledging that he's going through that. I wonder if there was some semblance of like a trauma bond, like maybe both of their experiences with that has kept them together. You never really know. So I'm over here technically just going through the headlines and judging this man based on this interview, but you never know. Tamar has a young son. He has a lot of children. They're connected in some way. Maybe they are helping each other through that. Like, contemplating taking your own life is something very, very, very serious. And I know I saw a lot of people in the comments who didn't necessarily believe him, but if somebody tells me that, I believe you. So in that, it did kind of shift my opinion. Like, okay, maybe Tamar is still helping him, but I still don't feel like his answers were very direct.
To process that, to get through that emotion and be with the therapist that I was with, because, you know, I don't know that I've ever felt a level of hurt that I went through in that time. And I'm grateful that I found some things through my therapy. I learned that.
You don't know if you had ever been through that level of hurt, but what I needed him to acknowledge was the level of hurt that he put on Tamar when he embarrassed her like that publicly. That's what was missing. I do feel like certain things he's saying is genuine. I just didn't see enough as somebody who knows you through Tamar.
My inner child was causing some problems for my relationships.
You 47.
I
do know that stuff that impacts you as a child can reverberate in your life in perpetuity for the rest of your life if you don't fix it. Trust me, I know. I'm just being shitty. I absolutely know.
Learned that my longing for my mother being gone for months at a time, while I know it wasn't right, I still loved her. And because of that, I may not have been putting boundaries in my relationships, and I was still acting within my inner child and allowing things to happen. And so that moment provided clarity for me in the way I needed to move forward in my relationship and create safe boundaries and communicate the hurt instead of just compartmentalizing and saying, okay, everything's gonna be all right. And just, you know.
So guys, I mean, like I said, we're not going to watch the whole interview. If you want to check it out, definitely, it's a good interview to watch. I just did not see what I needed to see to fully forgive him for the type of embarrassment. Even if Tamar was wrong, there's it adds a different layer when you do something with somebody's enemy. It adds a different layer when you take it public. In all the back and forth that I saw, I never really saw Tamar really try to take this man out. Hearing that he was contemplating taking his own life, it makes me think that maybe Tamar is wearing more kid gloves with him. Maybe she's truly in love with him. I don't know. But for this interview, I was really just like, what are you telling us? His childhood, definitely something that young people who don't come from much can look to and say, okay, if he can make it out, I can make it out. I like that. Not having like technically a mom or a dad and still doing well for yourself, I like that. Not being a deadbeat dad and taking care of your children, I like that. But in terms of the other stuff, I just feel like I was watching a white male Phaedra. Phaedra, when is your due date? I don't know. This baby's coming out. But wouldn't that mean that the baby is coming out early? He's fully formed. He's fully formed at 6 months. Yep. This baby's coming out. I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. Phaedra, you sure? That's what I got. I got that he's a very savvy orator and can kind of get out of questions that he doesn't want to answer directly. Let's see. Carlita says, I don't trust him whatsoever. I hope Tamar move on from him because he's a clown. Carlita didn't mince her words. V said, everything he says speaks to how she been him. What did you... Oh, everything he says speaks to what she did for him. What did you do for her? Good point. Bring Joy says, he's giving TV evangelism. BS artist. Banji says, I thought he said men want to date their man. Oh, Banji. And God is Noel says, adults don't weaponize their pussy and dick. You don't sleep with randoms to get back at your ex. JR and Tamar both need help. This ain't love. What enemy? Tamar and Tommy are not enemies. They absolutely are enemies. It started with this. Tamar Braxton and Tommy Lee exchanged shady posts after Tommy questions if Tamar's show would have been viral without Krishan. And then Tamar says, and before someone takes my phone, if you on cocaine and your name starts with a T and you never even sold out a bag of blow pops, she should have just said blow. See, she was trying to be too classy. She should have said, your name starts with T and you never even sold a bag of blow, something you know much about. See, that would be a better read. God bless y'all. Let me and my team heal from this trauma in peace. So now y'all want me to address out-of-work reality stars. Never. Me and my Muppet employed ass will keep you on the list if I need a non-fighting cokehead for a $2,500 an episode for one of these shows of mine I'm casting for. We not the same. Go sell some ass for your next hit. Now, technically, Tamar, you told her to go sell some ass. And that's what she did.
Reported. I should have recorded his head in my ass.
Now, according to Tommy, he's not her type. His Rolls Royce was old, and he paid for the St. Regis with Marriott reward points. But you did tell her. She took your advice and ran with it. And then Tommy said, gotta address me for it to hit, Muppet baby. So yes, they are enemies. They don't like each other. Not the super chats are facts. Not they bartered. She sold it to J.R. Who's J.R.? Anyway, guys, check out the whole interview. It was a good interview. As Tamar's boyfriend, I'm not feeling him. His story from being in the Marines to his mom being on drugs and overcoming all that, great story. Didn't move the needle for me with Tamar, but that's okay. All that matters is Tamar likes him. Carlos King, get Takara on a show ASAP. Takara from Top Model needs to be on my TV screen. The lady is hilarious. She's beautiful, and she has a story to tell. See you guys tomorrow. Bye, y'all.